The smell of roasted turkey filled my parents' house as I carried the wine bottles into the dining room. Thanksgiving. 45 relatives crammed into a space meant for 20, kids running between tables. The noise level somewhere between concert and construction site. I'd been up since 5 preparing sides. Green bean casserole, sweet potato soufflé, homemade cranberry sauce. My contribution to the family feast, same as every year. Rachel. Mom called from the kitchen. Come here, sweetheart. I need to talk to you before dinner. I found her arranging rolls in a basket, her face flushed from the heat of the oven. My younger sister Brooklyn stood beside her, stirring gravy with exaggerated concentration. Your father and I have been talking, Mom began, not looking at me. Brooklyn's been going through such a hard time with her business closure. She worked so hard on that boutique. The boutique that had lasted exactly 8 months before hemorrhaging money and shutting down. The boutique my parents had funded with $60,000. The boutique Brooklyn had treated like a hobby instead of a business. And we know you just got that big promotion at Technova, Mom continued. Senior Director of Product Development. Your father looked it up. Those positions come with stock options. My stomach dropped. We think it would be incredibly generous. Mom's voice took on that sugary tone that meant the decision was already made. If you gave your stock options to Brooklyn. To help her get back on her feet. Start fresh. Brooklyn finally looked up, her eyes red-rimmed. I just need a chance, Rach. You're already successful. You have a salary. I have nothing. Stock options vest over 4 years, I said slowly. They're part of my compensation package. I earned them. And you can earn more, Mom said briskly. Brooklyn needs them now. Family helps family. No. Mom's face hardened. We'll discuss this after dinner. With everyone. That's when I knew. She'd already planned this. A public announcement. 45 witnesses to pressure me into compliance. I walked back to the dining room, my hands shaking. Dinner was loud and chaotic. 3 tables arranged in a U-shape, kids at a separate table in the corner, plates passing in every direction. I sat between Aunt Linda and Cousin Marcus, pushing food around my plate. Dad stood up at the head table, tapping his wine glass with a knife. The room gradually quieted. Before we dig in, he announced, his voice booming, we want to take a moment to acknowledge what this family is really about. Support. Love. Sacrifice. Oh God. Mom stood beside him, her smile bright and practiced. Many of you know that Brooklyn's boutique closed last month. It's been devastating for her. She poured her heart into that business. Brooklyn dabbed at her eyes with a napkin from her seat. But we're so blessed, Mom continued, to have another daughter who's doing remarkably well. Rachel just became senior director at Technova. One of the youngest in company history. Polite applause rippled through the room. I felt 45 pairs of eyes turned toward me. And Rachel has graciously agreed, Mom's voice rose with theatrical warmth, to give her stock options to Brooklyn. Because she worked so hard and because that's what family does. The applause grew louder. I sat perfectly still, my fork frozen over my untouched turkey. I did what? My voice cut through the clapping. The noise died instantly. Mom's smile stayed fixed. Don't be modest, honey. We discussed this in the kitchen. You understand how much Brooklyn needs this. We discussed you ambushing me, I said clearly. I said no. That hasn't changed. Dad's face darkened. Rachel, we're not doing this now. You're the one who announced my private business to 45 people, I said, setting down my fork. So yes, we're doing this now. Brooklyn's voice trembled. Rach, please. I've lost everything. You have a career. I have nothing. You have $60,000 from Mom and Dad that you never paid back, I said. You have the car they bought you. You have the rent they've been covering for 6 months. You have plenty. Aunt Linda inhaled sharply beside me. How dare you bring up money at Thanksgiving dinner, Mom hissed. That's between us and your sister. Then my stock options are between me and my employer, I countered. Why is her financial situation public but mine isn't? Because you're being selfish. Brooklyn's voice cracked, genuine tears now. I worked 70-hour weeks on that boutique. I work 70-hour weeks every week, I said. I've been at Technova for 8 years. I started as a junior analyst making $42,000 a year. I lived in a basement apartment with roommates while you lived in a luxury condo. I drove a 15-year-old Civic while you leased a Mercedes. I earned this promotion. And now you can share it, Dad said firmly. That's what successful people do. They lift others up. I've lifted Brooklyn up for 8 years, I said, my voice rising. I covered her rent when the boutique wasn't making money. I loaned her $12,000 for inventory that never sold. I co-signed her business loan that she defaulted on. My credit took a hit because of her business. How much more lifting do you want? The room had gone silent. The kind of silence where you can hear the heating system kick on. You're exaggerating, Mom said, but her voice wavered. I have receipts. I pulled out my phone. Venmo transfers. Bank statements. Text messages where she promised to pay me back, next month, for 3 years straight. Brooklyn's face had gone blotchy. You kept track? Of helping your own sister. I kept track of loans, I said. Which apparently you considered gifts. Mom grabbed her wine glass and poured the entire contents onto my plate. Cranberry sauce and turkey swimming in Pinot Grigio. The liquid splashed onto my sweater. There, Mom said, breathing hard. That's what I think of your receipts and your selfishness. The table erupted in shocked murmurs. I calmly pulled out my phone, wiped the screen on my napkin and texted under the table. Catherine, I need you at my parents' house. 2847 Maple Ridge Drive. No. Family emergency. Bring documentation. I set the phone face down and looked at my mother. You want to talk about my stock options in front of 45 people? Let's talk about them properly. What did you just do? Dad's voice was quiet. Dangerous. I texted Catherine Morrison, Technova's chief financial officer. She'll be here in about 30 minutes. Brooklyn's fork clattered onto her plate. You didn't. I absolutely did, I said. You want my stock options? Let's discuss what that actually means. With someone who understands the legal and financial implications. Rachel Marie Thompson, Mom's voice shook. You will not bring your corporate people into this family dinner. You brought my corporate compensation into this family dinner, I interrupted. I'm just providing expert context. The next 28 minutes were excruciating. People whispered. Kids got restless and loud, providing cover for the adult conversations happening in urgent undertones. Brooklyn locked herself in the bathroom. Mom sat rigid in her chair, her jaw clenched. Dad tried twice to convince me to cancel Catherine. Just call her back, he said quietly at minute 15. We'll drop this. Forget the stock options. No, I said. You made this public. Everyone gets to hear the truth. At minute 27, Uncle Jerry pointed toward the window. Someone's pulling up. BMW. At minute 28, Catherine Morrison walked through the front door. She was 62, silver hair in a neat bob, wearing a cashmere sweater and slacks despite it being Thanksgiving. She carried a leather portfolio and surveyed the room with the kind of calm authority that comes from 3 decades in executive finance. Dad's fork slipped from his hand and hit his plate with a clang. Catherine, I stood up, weaving through the crowded room to greet her. Thank you for coming. I'm so sorry to interrupt your holiday. Nonsense, she said warmly, shaking my hand. You said family emergency. I came. I turned to face the room. Everyone, this is Catherine Morrison, Chief Financial Officer of Technova Systems. She oversees all employee compensation packages, including stock option grants. Catherine, my mother just announced to 45 relatives that I'd be giving my stock options to my sister Brooklyn. Catherine's eyebrows rose fractionally. I see. I thought you could clarify exactly what that would entail. Of course. Catherine set her portfolio on the nearest table and opened it. Though I should mention first that Rachel didn't interrupt my holiday. I was having a very mediocre meal prep turkey. This smells infinitely better. A few nervous laughs rippled through the room. Catherine pulled out a document. Rachel Thompson's stock option grant was awarded September 15th as part of her promotion to senior director. The grant consists of 15,000 options with a strike price of $42 per share, vesting over 4 years at 25% annually. She looked up. For those unfamiliar with stock options, this means Rachel receives the right to purchase Technova stock at $42 per share. Our current trading price is $93 per share. Cousin Marcus whistled low. When fully vested, Catherine continued, assuming current market prices, Rachel's options would be worth approximately $765,000 in gross value. After taxes and exercise costs, net value around $420,000. Brooklyn had returned from the bathroom. She stood frozen in the doorway. However, Catherine's voice took on a sharper edge. Stock options are non-transferable. They're legally bound to the employee who earned them as part of their compensation package. Rachel cannot give them away, sell them, or transfer them to anyone. Mom's face drained of color. If Rachel were to leave Technova before the 4-year vesting period, Catherine flipped a page, she would forfeit all unvested options. Currently, that's 11,250 options worth approximately $573,000 in potential value. She looked directly at my parents. Essentially, asking Rachel to give away her stock options is asking her to give away compensation she hasn't even fully earned yet. Compensation tied to her continued employment and performance. Dad couldn't meet her eyes. Furthermore, Catherine continued, Rachel's promotion to senior director came after an exhaustive review process. She was selected from a pool of 47 candidates. Her division has grown revenue by 32% under her leadership. Her retention rate is 94%. She's been instrumental in 3 major product launches. She closed the portfolio. In short, Rachel earned these options through exceptional performance over 8 years of service. They represent deferred compensation for work already completed and incentive compensation for future contributions. They're not a gift. They're not transferable. And frankly, they're nobody's business but Rachel's and Technova's. The silence was absolute. Catherine turned to me. Was there anything else you needed clarified? Just one thing, I said. If family members continue to pressure me about company compensation or create a hostile situation that affects my mental health and work performance, what are my options? Catherine's expression didn't change, but I saw approval in her eyes. Technova has an employee assistance program that includes legal resources for family financial coercion situations. We take employee well-being very seriously. If pressure continues, I'd recommend documenting everything and speaking with HR about protective measures. She looked at my mother. That could include cease and desist letters if necessary. Mom's hands trembled against the tablecloth. Catherine packed up her portfolio. Rachel, I'll see you Monday. We have the Q4 review. She nodded to the room. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Enjoy your meal. She left. Nobody moved. 45 people sat in stunned silence. I stood up, my wine-stained sweater cold against my skin. I'm leaving now. For the record, my stock options are mine. They were earned through 8 years of 60-hour weeks, skipped vacations, and building a career from the ground up. Brooklyn was crying openly now. And Mom, Dad, the $12,000 Brooklyn owes me? Plus the $3,000 from her business loan default that hit my credit? I want it back. You co-signed on her business loan, which makes you equally responsible for the default. Payment plan by end of month, or I file in small claims court. Dad's face had gone gray. Rachel, you can't be serious. Catherine just confirmed I can document financial coercion. That strengthens my case for the existing debts. Try me. I grabbed my purse and coat. You're destroying this family. Mom's voice broke. I turned back one final time. 45 relatives watching. Some horrified. Some thoughtful. Cousin Marcus gave me a subtle thumbs up. No, I said quietly. I'm protecting myself from being destroyed by it. There's a difference. I walked out to my car and drove away. My phone exploded immediately. Texts, calls, voicemails. I turned it on Do Not Disturb and drove in silence. Catherine called an hour later. I answered. That was quite a Thanksgiving, she said dryly. I'm so sorry I dragged you into that. Don't be. I meant what I said, mediocre turkey. Besides, I've been CFO for 20 years. I've seen every kind of family stock option drama. Yours was actually refreshing. Refreshing. You stood your ground. Most people cave. She paused. The employee assistance program wasn't a bluff. If they continue pressuring you, call HR. We'll handle it. Thank you, Catherine. And Rachel? That promotion, you earned every bit of it. Don't let anyone make you doubt that. I hung up and cried for the first time all day. The next morning, Dad called. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail. We need to talk about this situation. You humiliated your mother in front of the entire family. I saved it and forwarded it to my personal email. Documentation. Mom sent an email with the subject line, "Disappointed." I archived it unread. Brooklyn sent a long text about how I'd always been jealous of her, how I'd never supported her dreams. I blocked her number. But cousin Marcus texted, "Holy shit, Rach. CFO dropped receipts harder than Mom dropped her wine. You're a legend." I smiled. Aunt Linda sent, "Your mother is wrong. You worked hard for what you have. Don't give it away." I replied with a heart emoji. 3 days later, a certified letter arrived at my apartment. From my parents' attorney, offering $5,000 to settle all outstanding family debts and avoid litigation. I forwarded it to my own attorney with a note, "Counter with full repayment plus documented interest or see them in court." My attorney replied, "With pleasure." 6 weeks later they settled. Full repayment in 12 monthly installments. My stock options continued vesting. 25% on schedule. And I never went to another family Thanksgiving. Some relatives stopped speaking to me. Others reached out privately to share their own stories of family financial pressure. Cousin Marcus hosted an orphan Thanksgiving the next year. Me, him, Aunt Linda, and 6 other relatives who'd been excommunicated for various boundary-setting crimes. Best turkey I ever had. My mother sent a birthday card 9 months later. Inside just 3 words, "We forgive you." I threw it away without responding. Brooklyn filed for bankruptcy a year later. Mom called asking if I'd help with her legal fees. I hung up. My stock options are now 50% vested. Worth over $380,000 at current market value. Every quarter when they vest I think about that Thanksgiving. The wine on my plate. Catherine walking through the door. Dad's pale face. And I feel nothing but relief. Some people think choosing yourself over family makes you cold. I think it makes you solvent.